let's talk about D-Mid Slayer. And yes, I had to call it mid, and no, I don't actually think the show is that bad, but you guys overhyped this show just a little bit too much. I hopped on the wave of being able to watch Demon Slayer for the very first time, and I'm not gonna lie, based off everything I've seen online, my expectations were set beyond the roof. With the amount of Zenitsus I saw running around at cons screaming
Nezuko-chan!
and just the pure amount of love the show was getting everyone having in their top 10 and top 5, I knew it was time I finally acknowledged this show. But the rumors and hype did not live up after I finally decided to sit down and watch the first episode. We have a pretty typical shonen MC in Tanjiro, well, with having no dad and pretty soon into the first episode having no family after they all get murdered by a smooth criminal. But the murder of our protagonist's family and his sister turning into demons sets our shonen MC on his way to becoming a demon slayer. And now our friend Tanjiro runs into his first demon slayer, Giyu, who's there to kill Muzan, but he showed up just a little too late, unfortunate for Tanjiro. For some reason, Giyu decides to let Nezuko live, even though we know any of the other demon slayers would have had no problem killing Nezuko, and that would have ended the entire show right there. And now that we've seen the first piece of plot armor that saves Tanjiro, we now move on to his journey to actually becoming trained to be a demon slayer. So our protagonist finally meets up with Urodaki. He teaches him the way of becoming a demon slayer, because for some reason running up and down a mountain, training your lungs and being able to cut a giant boulder makes you ready to slay bloodthirsty demons. And now after a 2 years time skip, our friend Tanjiro is finally ready to go to final selection to become a demon slayer, even though he's still massively outclassed by most of the demons throughout the rest of this series. Now in final selection, we get to see one of the most interesting points of Tanjiro's character is his kindness even towards bloodthirsty demons. And this was one of his most important traits, but after the first time, it kind of gets played out after you get to see every demon that he kills backstories before they were actually turned into a demon. Now that Tanjiro has finally become a demon slayer, he's given his sword and he's sent on his first mission. There's not really anything too important to cover in this mission. It almost feels like some filler episodes, so we'll just skip to what feels like the actual first main arc in the series. Tanjiro's given another mission where he meets Zenitsu, who's probably the most annoying character in all of anime I've ever seen. When Tanjiro meets Zenitsu's on his hands and knees begging a young woman to marry him because he doesn't want to die alone. And if that doesn't sound bad enough, Zenitsu's whole purpose for becoming a demon slayer is because he owes payment to a former Hashira because, well, Zenitsu got scammed for being a lover boy. Tanjiro's met the first important side character throughout this series. It's time they go find the next member in Inosuke. Tanjiro and Zenitsu meet Inosuke, who's currently trying to kill the drum demon that Tanjiro eventually ends up killing. This is where one of the scenes that I think has one of the biggest flaws in this anime takes place. Once Tanjiro returns from trying to slay the drum demon, we see an enraged Inosuke trying to kill Nezuko inside of her box. But the one thing stopping Inosuke from killing Nezuko inside of her box is Zenitsu, and this is one of Zenitsu's biggest character development points, because the only reason he's protecting the box is because he knows how much Tanjiro cared about the box and said he would protect it with his own life. But at no point does he ever show this character trait again, so you can basically forget this ever happened and just keep remembering he's a crybaby and a coward. Here's where we get to learn a little bit more about Inosuke though, and we just learn that pretty much all he wants to do is fight, and if you're strong, he doesn't care how strong you are. He's willing to fight you even if it costs him his life. Now that we have our basic shonen team of 3, we're actually ready for our first arc to come to fruition. Our team's ready to go on their first real mission together, going to Spider Mountain to go ahead and slay whatever demon awaits them. And you're probably thinking, you skipped that whole interaction with Tanjiro and Muzan, what about that? And we're skipping over this, well, because it doesn't really add to the story we're telling right now. Our team wanders up the mountain looking for the demon that slayed a mass amount of our demon slayer core. It's on this mountain that we get our first look at an upper 12 demon in Rui, who Tanjiro thinks he succeeds in slaying, but it's actually a lot tougher than he thought. On the brink of death, our MC Tanjiro is saved by the one and only Hashira that saved him in the beginning of the series, Giyu. And Giyu is able to one-shot Rui, making Tanjiro's fight with Rui look like a kiddie fight. Tanjiro is extremely injured in his fight with Rui, as well as Zenitsu and Inosuke with their own fights against other spider demons. Luckily for the sake of plot armor again though, the perfect Hashira show up to save the team. Shinobu, a master of medicine, is able to heal Zenitsu, who was poisoned in his fight, and Giyu, who shows up and saves Nezuko in the very first episode and allows her to live, tries to convince Shinobu that Nezuko's not an evil demon and that she shouldn't kill her. It's here that the Demon Slayer Corps CEO calls a meeting for all of the Hashira to meet and talk about Nezuko and Tanjiro's fate. Once it's proven that Nezuko's not an evil demon and she can actually be of benefit to the Demon Slayer Corps, they decide not to kill her, and now Tanjiro's allowed to still be a member of the Demon Slayer Corps as well. And now that it's decided that our teams are still allowed to be Demon Slayer Corps, they must recover for their injuries and get ready for the next season. And that's pretty much a quick summary of Demon Slayer Season 1. I wish I could tell you that there were a lot more interesting things that kind of happened throughout the season, but unfortunately that's about it. Don't get me wrong, the animation on this show is absolutely beautiful and I did enjoy watching it, but the story was just kind of lackluster at times. Tanjiro stays the nice kid he always was, Zenitsu remains a crybaby, and Inosuke remains the guy that always just wants to fight anybody that gets in his way, and Nezuko doesn't really say much at all. And for that reason, I find myself scratching my head on why this anime found such a special place in people's hearts and managed to remain there. I don't in no way, shape, or form think that this was a bad anime. I just don't understand where all the love was coming from. I think it's an okay anime, and I think if you enjoyed it, there's nothing wrong with that. But to give the first season anything higher than a 7, I just can't see myself doing that. I finished the second season and been interested enough to pick up the manga, but after this first season, I don't see what all the interest coming for this anime was about. It's a very short anime, and it only really sets up the future, but to say it deserved an anime of the year is kind of a reach in my opinion. There's not really anything going on besides the main story of Tanjiro wanting Nezuko to become a human again. None of our side characters so far have set out on any side journeys of their own. Like, truthfully, most of the demons throughout the show have gotten to more development than our side characters, which I find baffling. Sure, it's coming eventually where we see more of Zenitsu and Inosuke's backstory, but as of now, it's not looking too good. As it stands now, the first season of Demon Slayer was pretty lackluster, but I'm looking forward to what the rest of the season has to offer. If you want to see a video about why I think Zenitsu is the least courageous character in all of anime, click this video right here.